You're listening to The Disc Golf Show. The Disc Golf Show, episode number 20, brought to you in part by Final Nine Sports. There's two locations that they have. Do you know where they are, Nick? Pop quiz.
One in Orangeville, one in Rockland.
There you go. Stop in, support local. Even if you're not local to us and you can't stop it in a Final Nine Sports, you should support local because it's local to you. And that's what you should do. I'm not saying you can't buy stuff online. Just if you do, we hate you. I mean, if you do, just try to make it minimum. No. Buying stuff online is fine. Local. But support local is kind of the message here. Episode number 20, Nick. Episode number 20. That's his name, Nick. My name is Justin. We're going to start this show. This show's almost old enough to drink in terms of episodes. For the second time round. Here in about 2 weeks, I bet you we're going to hit that big number 21.
Yes.
Hit that big number 21. And you know what you should do to help us celebrate number 21? You listeners at home, in your car, maybe, or on a jog, or maybe playing disc golf. I don't know what you guys do.
Or
maybe you play frisbee.
Yeah,
or exactly. While you're looking at them and nodding in agreement, but really listening to us, you can hit that subscribe button and help us out if you're watching on the YouTubes, as it were. Check out the YouTube channel if you haven't. We have stuff on there. More to come here on it here eventually when I get my act together and Nick decides to record. That's my spiel. I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I do need to do more. I'm sure they're so waiting for me to have more.
It is. And honestly, this has nothing to do with you, fellow listener and watcher. It's just my passive aggressive way to get Nick to make another video.
Yeah, because you love it so much. You may, but they don't.
No, probably not. I don't know.
Depends on the topic. But yeah.
I think conversation and discourse is good. And I think, we have certain topics that are controversial. I think it's good. I think it's good to talk about them, and have that discussion around things. I think because something's controversial or, one opinion goes one way, majority, minority, it doesn't matter. It's all about the discussion, right? And I don't think we should shy away from things that we want to talk about. Let's talk about them, right? We can be adults, some of us,
a few. Yeah.
A few.
Not me. Hopefully the majority.
Hopefully. That's the way.
Yeah. But I'll get around to doing some more, what are they called? Op-eds?
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds way too official for the Disc Golf Show.
Yeah, that definitely sounds way too official.
Yeah, the op-ed done by the Disc Golf Show. Two dorks.
Old mannerism videos.
Old mannerism. Oh, I love that.
That's right. Well, you should. You came up with it. So
I mean, you know what they say.
Yeah.
I'm great and everything.
But yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get into the minutia, right? The minutia.
Okay.
That's a good word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many people say that word, huh? All right. So
is there a reason?
A couple probably. It's not a commonly used word. A couple little items. First, I did notice, and I don't know if you ever watch, maybe you do catch them or not. The Apple events.
Yes.
Where they announce all the goodies, I noticed that on one of the videos, actually, I was watching a favorite channel of mine, MKBHD.
Marcus Brown. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
He did a quick video on I believe it was the Apple Watch.
Yes.
And he was flipping through different points that the Apple Watch was improving upon or whatever it offered, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that caught my eye was there was actually a Disc Sports exercise tracker on there. Now, I know that that's more lean towards, I believe, Ultimate, because he's an Ultimate player. Mind you, shout out. Mm-hmm. He's a world champ now.
Look at that.
Yeah. So shout out to Marquez because he listens to us just in case.
Collaboration coming soon.
Totally.
He probably has no idea and never will know.
But I noticed that was interesting because it literally said, it didn't say like Ultimate, it said Disc Sports, plural.
What's interesting, I've never noticed that on the Apple Watch myself when I used to have one. Now I have like some cheap, knockoff or whatever. But I was like, well, I wonder what it has. And I went through the list of stuff that's on there. Surprising, it has like 40 or 50 different exercises, maybe even more on there. And what I found for outdoor sports and just kind of the category of all, if you will, was interesting. I found frisbee. That's as
Really?
close as it got. That's as
Okay.
close as it got, but it did have frisbee. So that's a, we're
Oh,
narrowing the
right
margins
there.
there, right? And
Close.
then I found momentum sensing games and esports.
What?
How,
A
how's
tracker
that?
for
I'm not.
esports?
We're gonna get lots of hate for this one. So send your emails to nick@discgolfshow.com. But esports as an exercise type, what for your fingers? Maybe
How,
mentally. I don't
maybe
know.
moving your
Like,
hand on the mouse, the
yeah, I don't.
clicking of the finger.
Or maybe they mean because there are esports where you're doing the 3D, the VR,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and like
Possibly,
some of them have
possibly.
the thing where you're like running in the thing and you're like shooting, and so maybe that would be. I could see it that way, but if it was like you're playing, I don't know, League of Legends online, I don't really. I mean, maybe the mental burn, but that's
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it could
I don't
track
know.
your finger movement, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Right?
That
What's
is interesting,
your
though.
what's the acronym? It's the average movements per minute. What is it? Average
AM,
AM
PM?
PM. That's not it. AM PM. I would know. It's something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're tracking. I have no idea.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just interesting. I caught it in that video, so I thought I'd make note
No.
here. And let us know if you use it for disc golf. If you have, let us know how well it
Yeah.
works, how it
I've
applies. I mean,
I've used the tracking for like exercise, and I've usually just I put it on like walk mode or hiking mode. Like
yeah,
if we're on like a course that's like pretty hilly, I'll put it on hiking mode, right? Because I'll want like the statistics of like the hills and like elevation and all that, just because I'm curious. But normally I'll put it on walk mode if I think about it, right, when we're out playing, just to
yeah.
see. But it would be, I'm gonna put it on frisbee mode next time and see what happens. See what the
See
difference is.
see if it
I
does
don't know.
anything. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we
I
talked
don't know.
about this too.
Yeah.
Is I wish,
Mhm.
and you said there's a lot of stuff. You're smarter with that stuff than I am, but you said there's probably it just hasn't been, maybe it hasn't just been addressed or whatnot. But when I use my phone and I'm
Uh-huh.
using it in my pocket, walking around all day, it counts your steps, right? But if I put
Mm.
my phone in my bag, in my
Yeah.
cart, and
Yeah.
I'm pulling the cart, it does not register my steps. Even though I'm moving the same amount of distance that I would if it was in my
Right.
pocket, it's not registering that as an activity because it's not seeing or feeling those steps being taken. So I'm
Right. And
wondering if
that's
there's a way that that could be addressed in
it
some
can
manner.
be, and I think it all comes down to the accuracy of the app along with the device, right? Because if you think about it, GPS is only going to be so accurate. It's gotten way more accurate
Yeah.
recently, right? Modern GPS compared to what it was when it first started. Obviously, there's a huge difference, but then you have to take into account the purpose of that, right? So your GPS tracker just on your phone, just tracking movement, it's only going to be so accurate, and it's only going to count so often, right? Because if you're not even moving enough to cause the what is it, the oscillation or whatever inside of it to do its thing, how is
Hmm.
it going to count it, right? Then it would have to
Yeah.
count it by distance and GPS, and therein lies a whole bunch of extra stuff that they would have to work into it. Plus, I don't know if you've noticed, but do you really want that? Think about it. If your phone was constantly measuring your movement and the GPS was constantly on, how much would that burn through your already
That's
crappy
true.
battery life?
That's true.
So it's one of those things like, what do you really want? Like, you would want to turn it on. Well, then if you're going to turn it on, why not have an app that's dedicated to do that would be more accurate, anyways?
And I
That's probably
believe,
the route that you would go.
and I'm not sure if it's just the pro portion of it. I believe
Mhm.
UDisc does have that feature of tracking.
I think it does. Yeah.
So maybe it's just because right now I have the free version and I just don't use that for that purpose. But yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally
That could be.
plausible. That could,
And if you have the Apple Watch and you use it to track those type of things, write in and let us know, because it'd be kind of interesting to see how that works,
yeah, and which
or
apps
your
you might
experience with it.
use. Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's not UDisc, let us know what apps you use
Right.
for
Yeah.
tracking
Using the
your.
Nike Sports or what. So,
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so I do have an update. So check this
Mhm.
out. Last
Yeah.
show, we talked about how I picked up to support Disc Golf Pro Tour, Disc
Ah,
Golf Network, all that stuff. I
yeah.
picked up that 10-year subscriber box, right?
Okay.
So I had commented that I had emailed them, I had contacted them prior to that show. I hadn't heard back yet.
Mm.
It had only been maybe a week or so, I would say. And so I like to give people time, but I did want to make note that, as I said in the last show, if anything came from this, just the addressing of hopefully improving however it's managed, that's all I'd hope for, right? Even if they
Right.
didn't get back to me. Well, they got back to me, which was very, very nice of them to respond quickly, to be honest with you, for a relatively small company, because it is. Disc Golf Pro Tour, the staff team, compared to other businesses, it's still very small, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to allow them time to receive the inquiry, check into the inquiry to see how valid it may be, and then respond to it. So good things came back. A couple good things. One to note is that, as we discussed, it should have been shipped in another box. So wherever that misstep was taken, maybe it was the staff end of the night, end of that work day, and they ran out of boxes and there was one box left, which happened to be mine. Let's just slap the mailing sticker on the box and send it out, tape it up.
Right. I mean, that's
That's the only
that.
thing I could think of.
Right. And honestly, that's kind of good in a way. I mean, bad for you. Sucks to be you, right? They
Oh,
took care of you though in the end,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's which is awesome, which is what you should do in my opinion.
yes.
But that also means that they've already thought of that. This was
Yep,
just a mistake,
just a
right? This is
mistake.
not normally what happens. This isn't what they, put out there as a brand. This is
Yes,
just oops. Oh no, that's not what we do. Sorry that happened. We'll make it right. Here you go. That's the best outcome. Dude,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
more than you can ask for, and that's doing the right thing, which makes, gives me and hopefully anybody else listening way more confidence in that brand, right? Like, oh,
definitely.
okay, I am now way more comfortable purchasing things like this in the future because
Oh
that's
yeah,
exactly what should happen,
yep.
right?
Taking
So
responsibility. Oh
dude,
yeah,
kudos to them.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So it
That's
was
really, really
very,
good.
yeah, it was very good to hear that in the
Yeah.
response, that yes, it should have, it was a mistake. And you know
Yeah.
what? If that was it, I would have been happy because they're taking
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
I that is a major thing when it comes to dealing with any company for me, is if you're just acknowledging the fact that yes, you made the error on your part, on your
Yeah.
end, it's understandable. People are people, they make mistakes. Some people take shortcuts when they shouldn't have. If that was the case, like I said, I'm hoping the case was that end of the workday, ran out of boxes. Let's get this out because we want to get it to them. And it just happened
Right.
that also whoever delivered it did not take care of it. So that part's not on them, but
No.
they did
Yeah.
take responsibility and they made up for it. They sent out another box. So I will be doing probably a live I don't know. I'm trying to think if I may just pre-record the unboxing and then post it on our YouTube as well. But
Whichever way.
I wanted to give a major shout out to Disc Golf Pro Tour, for taking responsibility of that,
Yeah.
and replying in a fairly quick manner. I
Yeah.
know that they have a lot going on, especially right now. It's the end of the season. And
Yeah.
dealing with me is probably the last thing that they want to do.
Right. Probably looking at there like, oh, that Nick guy. All right.
That
Who's
guy,
sending the email?
that
Nick
guy
at
from, yeah,
discgolfshow.com. We know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah.
ending to that, and I will,
It's awesome.
as you said, continue to support them in whatever way I can, however my
Absolutely.
means are able to be doing so.
Absolutely.
So,
And
all
and
right.
and it wasn't like we weren't going to anyways,
Oh
because
no,
hey,
yeah,
even as a company, you're allowed to make mistakes,
yes,
right? And you're
definitely,
allowed to do things I don't agree with, right? If
yep,
that was their standard, okay, that's their standard,
yep,
right? We move on. I wish it would be different. I will give them the feedback, right?
yes,
But in this case, that wasn't the standard, So that's good.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Overall, that's good.
Definitely good. All right, so
Definitely,
we had
definitely.
one event this last over, and it seems like
One.
that the past few shows have kind of been like that.
And
So
now I open my water.
this last event was the 2024 Green Mountain Championship, held in Jeffersonville, Vermont, September 19th through 22nd. So this last weekend.
Yep.
This was a playoff event for the Pro Tour.
Yep.
And it was interesting. I mean, honestly, it was interesting mainly on one side here because it was kind of dominating on the other. But
That
um,
was interesting, though.
it was still interesting. And
It was
statistically,
more it was
statistically,
more dramatic on the FPO side,
yes. So,
but I think it was still interesting on both.
yeah.
Yeah.
So on the FPO, we'll go through this really quick. FPO side,
Mhm.
Kristin came out strong. She had kind of an off third round, basically,
Yeah.
and she
Yep.
fell quite a ways back.
I thought that was it for her too, but
Like she was, now mind you,
don't count her out,
summing this up, you never count her out. Now,
right?
the thing is, this new name popped up, right?
Mm-hmm.
This crazy new name. We haven't heard from her or about her all
Mhm.
year long, all
No,
season.
yeah, weird.
Silva Saarinen
All right.
was leading 6 holes left,
Mhm.
and Tattar was 8 strokes back.
Right.
And I believe at that point, Owen was 4 strokes back, somewhere around there.
At the start of the
No,
start of the final round.
no, 6 holes left of the final round.
Oh, okay. Because at the start of the round, I think Owen was leading.
Yeah, I
She was
believe you were.
destroying on
Yeah,
putts too.
well, yeah. Actually, Owen and Silva were tied for first going into
Yeah,
the final
yeah,
round. But
yeah.
yes. And that's another, you know what? That's a whole other thing that I did want to comment on really quick. Thank you for
Hmm.
bringing that up. Owen is, again, a prime example that though there is an age protected division, and this
Hmm.
weekend the Masters major was going on,
Yes.
she's 40 or in her 40s,
Yep.
early 40s. Um, she is still, again, with not being the longest thrower on tour,
Hmm.
still challenging the whole field.
Yeah.
The whole field. So you don't have to make that jump. I think it comes down to preparation
It does,
and
but they're uh, from turning 40. I can tell you. I mean, you would know way more than me,
oh,
Nick. I mean,
shut
you're up there in
your
the
mouth.
years. Golden years, right?
No,
Um,
shush it.
those golden years. Anyways,
Um,
yeah, when you get to the big 4-0, stuff starts going downhill athletically,
it
right?
really,
Like you start getting the upper 30s, like you can tell the difference. Like 20-year-old me could, for many reasons, could outrun me, just everything athletically, right? I
yes.
can I can
Yep.
tell there's an actual like, ooh, yeah, that's not the same that it used to be, and I don't recover as quickly, and there's just all these things that go along with age. So it is significant. Like being younger is an advantage,
Oh, it's definitely an advantage.
but the experience and time in terms of those things that are well honed over the years, you're still competitive. It's
Yes.
just I think you're playing at a disadvantage because of athleticism. We're talking
Yeah.
about athleticism, right? So
Yes.
you are at a disadvantage. Not to say that you can't hold your own. That just means you're really good, right? But you're still playing at a disadvantage. So I still agree
Yes.
with the divisions,
Yes.
right? There still needs to be those
Oh, definitely.
division
Definitely.
separations,
Yeah.
right?
And owns an exception.
Sure.
Owns a
Yeah.
definite exception to the rule.
There's always exceptions to the
You
rules.
had this weekend. You had for the Masters major event. You had Jennifer Allen was playing in it.
Hmm.
Sarah Hokum, who ended up actually winning it. So shout out to Sarah.
Hmm.
They're playing in that tournament. They were playing in that
Yeah.
tournament this weekend. So, but it is good to see her making. As you get older, around that age, you are going to have to make those decisions on. Okay, I've been playing FPO this long. Do I make that change? When am I going to make that change? Am I still competitive in the FPO division? And if you are, at least making top tens, why not stay? Why not stay? Unless you want to, you've done enough in that division through your lifetime so far that now you want to make those goals and hit those majors in the age protected divisions. So
Right.
just a big shout out on to Own her. Again, her putting is insane. It's probably the best across all divisions. One of the,
Man,
I would say, top three
at
across
least.
all divisions. Yeah. So big shout out to Own. She played strong and she did well in this event. But coming down the line, right? Coming down the
Right.
line, you had Sarnen, as I stated, 6 holes left, 8 stroke lead over Kristin. 2 holes left. I think it was still 4 strokes. I want to say.
Yes. I think you're right.
I believe it was
Yep.
either 3 or 4 with 2 holes left.
Right.
And the last hole, man. And I think
Yep.
it's I think what it is that another statistic was that when it comes down to any events that Saarinen, Silva, and Kristin have played against each other, Silva has a 1-19 record against Kristin.
Right.
So
You think it
there's
got in her
that.
head?
Well, I'm not saying that that's the only thing because she
No.
hasn't won an event in the US yet either. So
Right.
she's been very dominating this year overseas. And it's like when she comes over here, there's something where she's been leading. She leads that final round, whatever happens. It's just this misstep in her decision making or could be partially bad luck. We know that plays a big part in it, depending on the course you play on.
Mm-hmm.
But she ended up going out of bounds to allow Kristin
Yep.
on hole 18 to allow Kristin to tie
Yep.
to push it into sudden death.
Yep.
And they play 18 again.
Yep.
And I felt so like I was
Out of
really thinking,
bounds.
I was really thinking that Silva was going to get this win. And I
Right.
wouldn't have been mad because, like I said, she's been top of the list, at least again, over in Europe, where she's dominating over there.
Right.
And so to have her get that point, and even Kristin made a post, I think it was earlier today, saying, it was a great, she pushed her, Silva pushed Kristin, and it's just that small last hump that she's got to get over. Whatever it is that's holding her back, she will make it past that. Even Kristin knows that. She even said that basically in fewer words. But yeah, Kristin ends up getting the victory in sudden death on hole 18, and she has another win this year. So big shout out to Kristin.
Absolutely.
On the other side, in MPO, you had Alden Harris, which is a name that most people know. I want to say that I feel bad saying it this way, but not. It's true. He's known because of one. He has a great. If you aren't subscribed to his disc golf channel, go check it out. Alden Harris, but he hangs out with the crew, the
Mm-hmm.
Robinson brothers, Gavin Babcock, and Gannon Buhr.
Right.
So he ends up shooting a hot round first round. But then I swear he's got a vendetta against me, man. Like Gannon Buhr shoots a 16 down in round 2.
Right. Right.
A 16 down, dude.
Yeah.
And he jumps up into first, right?
And that's where it stays, to be honest.
Yeah, but another name that was in that on the lead card was Macbeth.
Waxahachie.
Macbeth,
Yeah.
Macbeth
Macbeth too.
was
Yeah, you're right.
after round 2. Macbeth was on lead card going into round 3 into moving day.
Yeah, which is awesome to see.
Which is awesome to see. But
Yeah,
again,
I want more Macbeth in there.
when you watch him,
Mm-hmm.
something's missing. Something's still
Yeah.
just slightly off in his game.
Yeah.
It's still, amazing. He's a great athlete and player, but he hasn't, for whatever reason, he hasn't put all these things together yet. So when one thing starts connecting, something else falls off. He fixes that, something else. And that's kind of how it is with golf anyways. If you've ever played traditional golf, your putting's on or your driving's on or your wedges are on or whatever. It just kind of seems that way with him this year. It's just he hasn't been able to put everything together in one event.
Right. I think we've seen, like you said, those different things coming together at different times. It'll be interesting to see if recognizing that going into next year, if that's going to play a factor into pushing him to better his game overall more consistently.
Well,
I'm
this
very interested to see it next year.
and this is what's funny about this, because everybody has mentioned Paul Macbeth as the Tiger of disc golf, right?
Yeah.
What's really interesting is right now he's almost doing what Tiger did near the end of his reign,
Yeah.
where
Short of some
he's so close.
alleged drunk driving,
Well, yes. But
incidents, but
I
yeah.
mean, in gameplay, in on the playing field,
In the play, I
not
know
on
what you mean. I was just being a jerk. Yeah.
yeah, he he's almost he's so close to having the most majors. He's so close,
Yeah.
but he still needs a couple. He still
Just a
needs
few
at least
more.
one to tie, I believe. And he's right there. And it was kind of felt that way when, if you watch golf, like that's how it was with Tiger. Tiger's so
Right.
close. But I'm definitely hoping that he does something like you said this upcoming year, and
Right.
hopefully his foundation, he is has less stress from that, and that's kind
Mhm.
of, well, Paul Macbeth Foundation is kind of laid to where
Right.
it's kind of is able to run on its own
I'm sure
and
that's a
be
lot
able
of
to
it
dedicate
is
himself to disc golf and playing.
that's it. That's it. He's not able to dedicate as much
Kind of
time to
spread a
prepping
little
for play.
thin. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah.
which makes sense. He's got
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of, eggs in different baskets, right?
Yep.
So I
Definitely.
get it.
Definitely.
I get it. So
So yeah. So after that, and like you said, after round three, the
mhm.
other old school name Wysocki comes into play. He
Wasaki.
actually takes Paul's spot on the lead card going into the final round,
Yep.
and that is always a scary situation for whoever's in the lead.
Yeah.
And Ricky
Because
did
that's
just
when
about everything he could do.
that's like Richard Wysocki this year, right? Is the final round, he turns up the heat,
Every event,
right?
dude. Every
Almost every single event, right?
Yep.
Like, so it's like, oh crap, final round. Oh crap, Wysoki's on this card. That to me as a player would add more pressure because this guy isn't slowing down.
Yep.
Like he can't
Yep.
in the final round, it's like he can't mess up,
Yep.
right? So it's one of those like you better be on it, which I mean, Buhr was. One thing before we get into that and what eventually ended up happening that I found, and here's a little bit of an old mannerism
Mhm.
for you, if you will. Not quite, but I found it more as funny, and you'll appreciate this because it's you. So it's on I think it's hole 15, could be wrong, don't quote me, but there's a flag guy, right? He's got the flags and he has them in his hands, right?
Mhm.
And I can't even remember who was throwing, but the shot goes almost out, but then comes back in and stays safe, right? Gets a good kick, something like that. Don't even really remember what the shot is. Doesn't matter. It almost goes out of bounds. It's kind of questionable. So he leans out, mind you, with the flags in his hands and goes, "It was good." I'm like, you have a flag in your hand.
I
That's
saw
the whole
that.
point of you having a flag.
I
Just wave
saw
the
that.
green flag, dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, good. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, the flag in you. I don't know. It caught me as funny. It was just kind of like, oh, I wonder if Nick noticed that.
Oh, I
It's
saw that.
more why I caught it was like,
I saw that.
oh.
Yeah. 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 Because now tell me if this is what it was. When you're looking at the
Uh,
screen, he was on the right side of the screen on the OB, right?
yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah,
I
yeah,
saw that and I
yeah.
thought the
No,
same thing.
I was wondering if you're gonna bring. I didn't see it in the show notes as
Because
like a
yeah,
key.
it was
Like I'm
in
gonna
his,
talk about this, but
the flags were in his left hand.
mm-hmm,
Both of them were sitting
mm-hmm,
there, and
mm-hmm.
he puts his right hand out and puts a
And he
thumbs
reaches
up.
across his body to put his right thumb up. Like, did you have flags in your hands?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
You could have just waved
I just
those.
thought it was funny.
That's what you
I
had
just
it
thought it was
for.
funny. Did it
Yeah,
matter? No, but it was. I just thought
no,
it was funny because I was like, "Oh, Nick's
yeah.
gonna throw a fit
Oh
about
yeah.
that."
Yeah, that was very amusing. Definitely amusing.
Yeah.
Everybody has a brain fart now and then, and that
Oh
was out of
yeah,
bounds right there.
yeah. He was
Hey,
probably afterwards. He was probably like, "Oh,
at least
you
he
know."
didn't
But
get in the way of a disc that was out of bounds and kept it from coming back inside. That's all.
yeah, true. Yeah, true,
You know.
true,
Yeah,
true.
so, but yeah. So in the end, Burr just continues dominating this year. This is his seventh win.
Yep.
Another 4-round event.
Wins by
He
7 strokes.
Well, Ricky was at that point. Did you see that drive on hole 18, final round by Ricky?
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
had a eagle
Yeah.
attempt on
Yeah.
that hole.
Attempt. Yeah.
And that's what all he was
Yeah.
going for at that point, because he was, like they said in the live stream, he was in no man's land. He could have doubled
Yeah.
and still taken second because
Yeah.
the third place was behind him enough, but he was nowhere close enough to catch Burr at that point. So he was just
Yeah.
going for the
Yeah.
excitement of it, and
Yeah.
that was a
I think you heard him
match.
yell, and they're like, "Get good, get
That was a
good," or
match.
whatever it was. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that was
yeah,
awesome. That was such a great drive. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Burr, I think what it is, and even in his interview, he
Mm-hmm.
did state that he wants to be in the discussion of GOAT talk, right?
Okay.
He wants
Yeah.
to be in that discussion at some point. And he stated it may take, and I'm liking this kid more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It may take 10 years to do so. He goes,
Sure.
unless I win everything the next 5 years, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And for him to, one, acknowledge that at
Mm-hmm.
his age,
Mm-hmm.
and two, I think the strongest part of his game is his mental game, because he bogeyed and he popped right back from that.
Yep. That's what I
It
was going to
didn't.
say.
It
Even
didn't
in
hold
his
him back.
interview,
Yep.
he acknowledged that. He was
Yep.
like, I really went into this and I was really focusing on my frustration level.
Yep.
And you could see that because he was like, I was actively working on, even if there was some frustration, not physically showing it. Right. And I
Yep.
think that's super key because that hits the nail right on the head there with the mental game, right? Is
Yep.
if you're not working yourself up to a point where you're showing the frustration, you're not escalating yourself to a level that's harder to get under control. Internally, yeah, there may be some turmoil, but it's easier to push down if you're not manifesting that,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because you could take that into your daily life if you've gotten frustrated or pissed off about something, right? And you're like just internally like holding on to it and kind of not showing it outwardly, but you're dealing with it. It's a lot easier to get that under control versus you just that takes
Right.
a lot longer to calm down
Oh
and
yeah.
get back to a manageable state, right?
Yep.
So I think that's super important, and it was interesting to see that he addressed that directly in that interview because it's something that I noticed too. Because exactly like what you were talking about, after situations where you bogey, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen here? Oh, hey, you handled that well. Good job.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, that's where he needs to go. And exactly what you were saying. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Like I've noticed that, and that's good. So
And you know
yeah.
what else is interesting? So
Mm.
here's another thing, and I don't know if you've watched any recent practice rounds with Jomez.
Mm-hmm.
So the uh, Isaac Robinson was on the practice. Actually, both the Robinson brothers were on that practice round for that course for the Green Mountain Championship. They were
Right.
playing with Big Germ, and the crazy thing is
Mm-hmm.
that Isaac, as good of a player he is, and he's won multiple majors now, right? 3, I think, total. He said during that practice round that he goes, Gannon is a better disc golfer than I am. And he's just hoping that he can eke out enough of a good round
Uh-huh.
to uh, to best him at a tournament. So it's, I don't know, it's interesting to hear Isaac, who's had a decent year, basically give it up to Burr. I mean, Burr is the one to beat, obviously, with his record
Yeah.
this year. But it was just interesting because he was saying, like, with Gannon, he's basically got to tank the rest of the year pretty much to lose Player of the Year. And
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think the only way he doesn't get Player of the Year this year is, let's say, if Isaac comes back and wins another major, wins USDGC or the championship finale, right? The DGPT championships. If he wins another major this year, then maybe there's that discussion again, kind of like it was last year. But yeah, man, Gannon kind of looks like he has it locked in right now. I mean, he's won, I think, now almost close to $150,000 this year from his winnings. and so he's got a record going there. But and it doesn't look like he's going to slow down with the last few events that are coming up. And
No.
speaking of that, our next event is starts on Wednesday. So September 26th to 29th is a 2024 MVP Open presented by OTB. That's in Leicester, Massachusetts. Leicester, Massachusetts. And they've made some changes at that course, so that's going to be interesting. That one of those big changes is that hole 1, the squirrel gate or squirrel, they call it something, because remember that one year where the
Yeah.
squirrel made
Yeah.
the disc go out of bounds on the
Right.
upshot? So they built this barn facade over that gap that goes into the green, and I don't know. They've made a few adjustments on the course, so it'll be interesting to see those in play. But I'm not the biggest fan of that barn structure that they put there, personally. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that works. All right. Well, I mean, I guess we can move into questions. Are you ready for some questions?
I am. And for anybody watching the YouTube, my camera decided to just stop working. I don't know why. So we're going to go on without it.
All
That's
right.
what
All
we're
right,
going to
guys.
do.
All right. We'll get through this here.
Yeah.
So first question, and I have a few questions. I'm trying to figure out some different questions here. I'm going to go backwards on what you're probably looking at.
Okay.
Should circle with, I don't know. This is tough because it all kind of stems from Gannon Buhr, I feel like.
Okay.
Should circle 1 be made bigger or left as is? So let's say should circle 1 not be 10 meters? Let's say should it be 50 feet instead of the 32 point whatever feet it is, the 10 meters?
No.
So you're fine with circle 1 being small. Now, okay.
Yep.
In addition to that, adding to that, I should say, with that being the case, do you think the step putt or jump putt should be kept, or should it be outlawed?
I think that the step putt and the jump putt can stay. I have no real problems with it, right? You can step putt and jump putt and still miss, right? You could not step putt or jump putt and make it. There's players that do, there's players that don't. And I think it comes down to style, especially when we're talking about the upper echelon, the upper caliber of player. I don't really think there's as much of a distinction there, right? If you step putt or you don't step putt, they could do it either way. I don't think it really matters, right? If you
Yeah.
make everybody do one style versus the other, I think you're just arbitrarily putting stuff in that doesn't really make a difference, right? Some people may argue, oh, well, it's easier to jump putt in there. I don't think so. Maybe at the pro tier, I don't know. I'm not a pro, but I can tell you from personal experience, I hate jump putting. It makes it way more difficult for me. I'd rather just stand still and putt it. I make 99% of them that I stand still and putt versus jump putt, right?
Yeah,
Because
there's
I
a lot
just
more
suck
moving
at it.
parts. There's a lot
But I
more moving
but I
parts.
also don't practice it either, and that's why there's more moving parts, and I don't like to do that with my game. I
Yeah,
struggle as it is. I don't want more variables, right? So
yeah,
me personally, no, it'd make it more difficult. I would hate to have to be like forced to jump putt. I'd rather just stand still, right? It doesn't improve the odds for me. And I think I would think that it would translate to those upper echelons. Like it just doesn't matter. So removing it or banning it or outlawing it, I think it's just pointless. Who cares? I don't really
yeah,
think it affects
true.
the game that much, and that's why I don't really think it matters. So
So,
I don't know. That's my personal opinion,
yeah,
but
and the only reason I brought those up is because with it almost being more common, in addition to this round that we discussed earlier with Gannon shooting a 16 down, that could be a way in which you can make it a little tougher on the participants.
mhm,
But in that thought process, with it being slightly more common, and it's not every tournament, but you're seeing
mhm,
tournaments pretty regularly where they're hitting 13 at the 12 or 13 down, right? I mean,
mhm.
almost every event you're seeing somebody do a round that's 12, 13, maybe 14. So is there a future where you think that there should be an increase in difficulty so that maybe, let me put it a different way. Should we look at making it more difficult, or should we embrace the fact that this is some of these courses or tournaments are birdie or die events?
I think you should have a mixture of both. And here's what I think you should do, though. And I'm not the first person to say it, right? I think others have had the idea before me and will have it after me, is that I think we need to make putting more difficult. I really do. I think that one, we need a consistent standard across the board, one style of basket with certain measurements, and that's the standard, period. Right. And then once we can establish that, we start making it a little more difficult. Right. We, by whatever means that may be, that makes it more difficult, maybe not as many chains, or maybe the target itself is a little smaller for the area that's actually the target inside the basket, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that may be, because I think people are getting away with smashing in putts and not having the touch that I think could bring that next element of difficulty to the game at those top tiers, right? I'm not saying disc golf across the board, but I'm talking about especially at these top tiers, these elite tiers that we're talking about right now. We need to make that a little more difficult, make it a little bit more touch oriented, because they have the skill to do that. And that would start affecting these scores. You wouldn't have necessarily the 16 downs, right? Maybe you have that. Maybe it's 8 down,
Yeah.
right? And it makes it a little bit more dramatic and interesting in that respect, right? Um, However, if it were to stay the same till the end of time as it is right now, I mean, really, at the end of the day, whatever. That's
Yeah.
what you come to expect, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes the new norm, and now you know what the bar is, right? That becomes the new de facto standard, which it is right now, right? Let's not that's what it is right now. Does it need to change from right now? I think it would make it more interesting if it was, right? But I think one thing that we should focus on really with disc golf, and really bringing that to the forefront and getting more eyeballs on it and televising it and making it more popular, because ultimately that's what we're talking about, right? Professional sports, and
Yep.
getting to that upper echelon and getting to that ball golf level. I think what we need to do is work on the efficiency of the game and speeding it up. Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of people are having a problem with the idea of watching disc golf for as long as it goes on. And
Yeah.
that's going to be the major factor that prohibits a
Yeah.
lot of people from watching it, getting the eyeballs on it, right? And
Yeah.
and pushing you up to that tier, because let's face it, it's not ball golf. It's not that popular. I'm not saying
We-
it can't be, but it's not. That's not what it is, and we need to stop comparing it to that,
yes.
right? We need to start pushing up the efficiency of the game, because at the end of the day, a frisbee is going to go a shorter distance
Oh
than
yeah.
a ball in the
Yep.
air. And we need to speed that game up to get more eyeballs on it, and make the game more impactful in that respect. Get it done, get it over with. More people would be more, I think, prone or apt to watch it,
Yeah.
right? If that were the case. I think that's where the focus really needs to be, really initially. And then we can talk about these kind of things of making it more difficult, or, in any respect, putting or the courses or whatever. We need to speed it up. I think
Definitely.
that's where the focus should be first. But
Definitely. Yeah.
sorry to
Yeah.
derail your question,
Oh
but
no, no, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so a couple items here before we get near the end here to the end. One, I did make I think it was a post or a comment to Statmando.
uh-huh.
Reason being, I think it would be interesting, and I don't know if they have this or not. It would be interesting. A couple things. Do we have spit out stats? Do we
Oh, I
have
bet you they
not?
do.
Do we not only have spit out stats, but spit out stats specifying one, the event, and two, the basket used in which the spit out occurred? I would
Okay.
be very curious because we've discussed this as well. There
Right.
needs to, like you said, there needs to be a standard for the tour.
Right.
Yes, everybody plays on that basket at that tournament. Yes, I get that.
Sure.
It is even for that event, but when you're talking about a tour, it should be it should be more connected than just you're part of the tour. There should be a
Right.
consistency across the tour. So I think it would be interesting to see what the I'm calling them out. No, I'm not calling them out. I'm asking if Statmando is able to get that data together, because I would be extremely interested to see those numbers and the specifications on what baskets produce the most spit outs and what
Right.
tournaments. And obviously, it's going to be dependent on the putting style, like you said. So a lot of those spit outs, most of them come from people who putt hard, but we witnessed a couple events ago nice soft putts from
Getting
Proctor
pushed
where,
out by
yeah,
chains.
like,
Yep.
come on. So it would be interesting. That would be an addition, I guess, of the speed of the putt or the force of the putt and how it spit out would be very, very interesting. But
Right.
yeah, and then the last thing I did want to make note, there is a new um, YouTube channel coming out or came out or whatnot. The reason why I say this because I contacted them and I saw their first little video that they did. It was really good. I just want to do a quick shout out to them, and it is AMG Disc Golf. So AMG Disc Golf. So go support their new Instagram that I came across. They're going to be producing some video content. I guess he actually edits as his day job. So
Oh, okay.
maybe
So the quality video will probably be pretty good.
there might be something there that we might talk about. I don't know. But
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, go check them out. AMG Disc Golf. We love supporting any up and coming
Yep.
channels or businesses that are trying to do their part in disc
Absolutely.
golf. And
I
so I
think
just want to put that out there.
I think that's one of the things. I mean, at least we've been very consistent on. We're supportive of everybody.
Yes.
It's not a competition per
Nope.
se, right? There's no like I'm not. We're not that type, right?
Nope.
Of show that's like, oh, this guy's starting up. Yeah, whatever. I hope they fail. No,
No.
I want everybody to do good,
More
right?
content.
And
Yep.
I think though that's one good thing about the disc golf community as a whole. At least here on YouTube, everybody's really supportive. I
Mm-hmm.
don't really hear a lot of like people pooping on other channels and stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the supportive community. If I could speak, using the
Definitely.
ability to enunciate here. Um, but yeah, no, that's a good thing. So yeah, big shout out to those guys and shoot them a subscribe and a like if you would. That'd be
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. Go follow them.
You know what else is really good this week that we'll touch on just briefly here, Nick?
I have an
Uh,
idea.
yeah, Ken won the skipper.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
okay, that
yeah.
guy.
I was always a couple steps
I
faster.
was I
But
was in the runnings, but then he decided to be Ken, and then won again. Enough to say about that. Congrats, Ken. I hate you.
yeah,
I mean, good
good
job.
for you.
Right? Yeah. No, he's doing really good. And I think we should think about maybe incorporating in his advice on the show, so that
Yep.
maybe he could teach everybody, and then two secretly we could write notes and then beat him
Yes.
next year.
Yes. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
give us
hoping
your
for.
secrets, Ken.
Yep.
Give us your secrets.
I'm just going to take
Uh,
his list of people right now. I'm going to
uh-huh.
take a screenshot of it. And
Yeah.
then next season, I'm just going to
Mhm.
steal all those people.
Oh, you think that'll work? Okay. All right.
No,
That's
it still
probably what
won't
he's
work
counting.
because
Yeah,
I'll pick them, which means they're not going to do great.
exactly. It's more the theory and the strategy behind it, I would think.
Yeah.
So, and we just gotta pry those secrets and methodologies out of them. But you
Yes.
know what, Nick? You know
Hmm.
it's not a secret?
What's that?
Using the code Disc Golf Show to save yourself 15% off your entire purchase at Upper Park Disc Golf. Just use that code. All
Yep.
one word. It's real simple. Disc Golf Show, and you save 15% off those bags and those accessories and those awesome things that you can purchase online at Upper Park Disc Golf when you're not shopping local like you should. Speaking of local, you should support local when you're not shopping at Upper Park Disc Golf. Final Nine Sports sponsors this show in part with their two locations, one in Rockland, one in Orangeville. You know the deal. Support local. That's the message. When we thank them for supporting us so that we can
Definitely.
give this show, at least in part, to you. If you have any thoughts for us, you have some questions, you want to contact us, hey, you want to come out and play a game around with the Disc Golf Show to make yourself feel better about your game, email us at the show at discgolfshow.com with all of those type of things. And as always, send Nick your hate mail at nick at
Yes.
discgolfshow.com.
Yeah.
He can't go to sleep unless he reads at
Nope,
least a
you
hate mail
can't.
message or two.
Really fuels my day.
That's it. Remember, subscribe to the show because that's what we're trying to hit here. We have a subscribe goal and you can help us get there. And when we do, we're going to be doing a giveaway. So keep your peepers on the Facebook pages for that type of stuff. And remember, in disc golf, as in life, aim high and let it fly.